All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Torah Studies. This is our weekly look at the Torah portion. And this week, we have one of the most compelling, interesting, controversial Torah portions in the entire book. In the entire 5 books collection of the Torah. And it is the Torah portion called Sisa, the highlight, or maybe I should say the lowlight of this week's Torah portion is the sin of the golden calf. And our sages tell us that, when Adam and Eve sinned, the world was created in a state of perfection. Paradise, perfection, whatever you want. I was speaking to someone this morning. Actually, no, last night. Okay. All right, hold on. Stick with me. A lot of ideas coming, bubbling forward. All right, here we go. So if you were following the Megillah, the story of the book of Esther, as we read it on Purim, traditionally we read it twice, both the night of Purim and the day of Purim. And so as I was listening to the story being read this year, and one of the times I listened to it was read by my son, Nasan, who reads the Megillah. He read from my grandfather's Megillah, Zaidi's Megillah. Yeah, very cool. So anyway, I had some thoughts that came to mind, and then I was speaking with people, and others shared some thoughts. So I want to put together a few ideas, and then we're going to segue right into today's class. What was the driving factor of Haman? Why did he want to destroy the Jewish people? So the Megillah says, because everybody bowed down to him, except for one guy, Mordechai, right? Mordechai wouldn't bow down to him. And that bothered him so much. He said, not only am I going to get rid of this guy, Mordechai, I'm going to get rid of his entire people. That's it. Think about the concept. Haman had everything. He had money. He had power. He had fame. He had everything you want. Haman, you got it all. One thing he didn't have. Can you imagine? You have it all except for one thing. And he says, I'm paraphrasing, I'm forgetting the exact words. None of it is worth it as long as Mordechai doesn't bow down to me. You hear that attitude? You got everything, missing one thing, but because of the one thing that I'm missing, the whole thing you throw out. It's crazy. But think about how often we do that. There's the broken tile syndrome or something like that, where something's beautiful and gorgeous and whatever, but there's one thing out of place, one thing broken. Who's in charge of this place? It's crazy. Who's running this place? Who's running this joint? It's the same concept. What's the concept? Haman has everything. He doesn't have one thing. But because he doesn't have that one thing, he can't enjoy anything. And it's craziness. It's craziness. So there's an interesting play on words. Good to see you, David. There's an interesting play on words. Of course, his name is Haman. And there's one time in Torah where those letters are found. The same 3 letters. Hey, Mem, and Nun. Haman. But it's vowelized differently. It's vowelized. It's when God speaks to Adam and Eve. When God speaks to Adam after the first sin. You know what he says? Hamin ha'etz. Did you eat from the tree? Hamin, not Haman, because Haman he's not in biblical times, right? He's after biblical times. But the same 3 letters in Hebrew, Haman, if again revowelized, a different Hamin. Was it from Hamin ha'etz? Was it from the tree that you ate? God asked rhetorically, because he says, Adam, where are you? And he says, I'm hiding. Why are you hiding? Because I'm not wearing clothes. Who told you that that's a problem? Did you perchance, Hamin ha'etz? Again, I'm forgetting the next words, but did you eat from the tree? It's the same syndrome. Think about it. It's the same missing one thing syndrome. They were given every tree in the garden. Whatever you want to eat, you can eat, except for one tree. So now imagine this. Imagine you are a healthy person. You would say, great, let me enjoy everything that I can eat, and I can luxuriate in what's permissible. Nope, not Adam and Eve. The one thing that they can't, they become fixated on. The one thing that's missing, you become fixated on, and that creates all the problems. It brought the downfall of Adam and Eve, and it brought the downfall of Haman. He had it all. He was missing. One guy didn't bow down to him. No. He could have chalked him up to a Meshuggah. He could have said, Mordecai's crazy. Everyone else knows the truth. Everyone knows who I am. Let me pat myself on the shoulder. One guy doesn't respect me. All right, that's his issue. No, the whole thing wasn't worth it. The whole operation. He couldn't live with himself as long as he was missing one thing. And I think it's such a cautionary tale and such a powerful lesson for all of us to appreciate what we have and not get fixated on the thing that we don't have, which so pales in comparison to the blessings that we have. All right. So with that in mind, I want to share the following.
Can I just add one thing?
Yeah.
The Yud in Hamin could be construed to refer to Haman's 10 sons who followed his customs, let's say.
Could be, yeah.
I mean,
depends on how it's written. We have to look back over the information to see how it's written. If it has a yud, it doesn't have a yud.
If there's a yud, I don't know.
Yeah. All right. So here's how I want to segue into this week's Torah portion. There's the two big sins of the Torah, like on a broad scale, are the sin of the tree of knowledge of good and evil with Adam and Eve, and of course the sin of the golden calf after Revelation at Sinai. Those are the two big sins. And in fact, they're linked in rabbinic tradition. It says in the Medrash that, God, after the sin of Adam and Eve, introduced a level of impurity. The zuhama, it's called in Aramaic, this level of impurity into the world. I mean, the first sin brought death upon humanity. It brought a lot of negativity. And when God revealed himself at Sinai, it says, Pascha zumasan. This impurity dissipated. And then when they sinned with the golden calf, it came back. Can you imagine? It says that we would have lived forever had they not sinned with the sin of the golden calf. What's crazy is that 4 weeks ago, we read about Revelation at Sinai, the Torah portion of Yitro, which is 4 weeks ago from this coming Shabbat. It'll be 4 weeks back, is when we read about the 10 Commandments and Sinai, and there was no indication that anything was awry. And indeed, at that point, it wasn't, but a mere, how many days? 40 days later, right? Moses goes up the mountain, 40 days, 40 nights. He tells the people, I'll be back in 40 days. They start counting day one from when he goes up the mountain. They should have waited to the next day because it wasn't a full day. They needed 40 full days, whatever it was. They miscounted. They panic. They're looking for a leader. They're looking for something tangible. I mean, all they have is God who's invisible, and they want something tangible, and Moses is gone. And they create the golden calf, and they worship it. And Moses comes down the mountain.
How did they do that in less than 24 hours?
They moved very quickly, apparently. It says they threw the gold into a fire along with a piece of parchment, papyrus, something that said Ale Shar, rise ox, which Moses himself had penned when he was extracting Joseph's bones from the Nile River. And he wasn't sure where it was. So he put and Joseph's bones rose, his coffin, his remains rose to the top of the water. And so they threw that into the fire, and out came golden calf. And they began worshiping it. Of course, we know the story. We've all seen the movie. Even Charlton Heston playing Moses comes down the mountain, and he has the tablets. And what happens? He smashes the tablets. He breaks the tablets. Well, immediately after that, Moses begins negotiation. He begins speaking to the people, telling them they got to clean up their act. They got to pivot over here, return to Hashem. And then he chastises them strongly. And then he goes to God and says, God, you got to forgive the people. So he's tough with the people. He's tough with God. And then ultimately, as the story, it's all in this week's Torah portion, as the story plays out, God ultimately says, I will forgive the people. I will acquiesce to your wishes, Moses. You're a good lawyer. I'm paraphrasing. He says, I will forgive the people for their sin. And then Moses said, that's not good enough. We don't just want forgiveness. You need to be there with them and lead them like you were leading them before the sin. God acquiesces to that as well. And ultimately, Moses receives a second set of tablets. And this is where we're going to pick up the story. So, David, if you don't mind, please read text number 1. Actually, give me 1 second. Let me pull this up on the screen. Hold on, please. And this is going to be God's command to Moses to craft the second set of tablets. This is going to be very instructive and one of the key texts for tonight's class. David, please take it away.
And God said to Moses, carve out for yourself 2 stone tablets similar to the first set, and I will inscribe upon the tablets the words that were on the first tablets that you broke.
Okay, so thank you for reading that. Those last 3 words raise the eyebrows of many a commentary because it didn't need that. In Hebrew, it's 2 words, asher shibarta. It doesn't really need that. God could have just told Moses, carve the tablets, and I'll inscribe upon the tablets the words that were on the first tablets, full stop. He adds on that you broke. Now, the cynical reader might say, well, he's digging into Moses. You broke the tablets, right? It's almost like the spouse that says, oh, I called the plumber to fix the pipes that you couldn't fix, or that you broke, or that you, right? It's like, it's kind of like, it's a little bit of a dig. Let's replace the first tablets that you broke. Who needs that? Asher shibarta. It seems like, they call it in Yiddish, they call it a shtech. Shtech means like a scratch, not a scratch, like
a stab,
a
stab.
A stab. There you go. Yeah, stab. It's like you're stabbing the guy. It's over. He broke the tablets. No, it's fine. No, asher shibarta. However, what's interesting is that the commentaries, all the way going back to the Talmud and then and then into Rashi's commentary on the verse itself, all the commentaries, I can't say all, but many of the commentaries say that it was not a shtech, it was not a poke or a stab. On the contrary, it was actually saying you did a good job. You know, what's the popular phraseology that we use when someone does something, gets an honor, or did something well, or bar mitzvah or whatever, did something well in shul? In synagogue? What do we say?
You killed it.
You killed it. Also, say yasher koach. What is yasher koach? Yasher koach means you done well, but yasher koach means
Strength.
So koach means strength. Yasher means affirming your strength.
Right.
Affirming meaning you did well. Like, I endorse what you did. You did a good job. So if you look at the Hebrew word for that you broke, the Hebrew word, the 2 words, is asher shibarta. Hey, Ramon. Asher shibarta. Our sages are going to say the asher shibarta, you can read it as yasher kochacha shibarta. God was telling Moses, yasher koach, good job, asher shibarta, that you broke the tablets. It's a wild concept. So far from God saying, let's prepare the tablets that you broke, meaning as an indictment. On the contrary, asher shibarta, you did a good job. Now again, this is not my interpretation. It's not an original interpretation. It goes all the way back 1,500 plus years to the Talmud, text 2a.
Could it also, though, be interpreted as you didn't really have to break the tablets, you still could have accomplished what you wanted to accomplish without breaking it and taking another 40 days? Good.
We're going to get into the question. I'm actually going to ask you your question right after we read this interpretation and challenge it with your question.
Okay.
I want to layer your comment after this as a question, meaning who says this was good. So we're going to get there in a second. Ramon, perfect timing. Literally, we're up to you. So if you don't mind reading, please read text 2a. And here we find the Talmud describing the act of Moses breaking the tablets.
Moses broke the tablets. What was he thinking? He said the paschal lamb is only one of the 613 commandments. And God said all children of foreigners may not partake. Here the entire Torah is at stake, and the Jews are in a state of
apostasy. I don't know what, it seems like there's a Hebrew letter in there.
Yeah, there's a dalet.
There's a dalet. Yeah, I'm not sure what happened.
Apostasy. How much more so are they unworthy of it? Where do we see that Hashem agreed with Moses? It is written that you broke. Reish Lakish explained these words as thank you for breaking them.
All right, so this is a wild reading. And we actually had this in a recent course. I think this last course that we just did, Captivating Case and Rabbinic Responsa, where Moses comes up with what we call a kal v'chomer. Kal v'chomer means How do you explain Kal V'chomer? It's
All the more so.
All the more so argument, a fiority or something argument, basically saying something like this, like, okay, here's how it would work. Here's an example. If you tell me that you must wear a coat in 30-degree weather, how much more so do you need to wear a coat in 10-degree weather? Now, you never told me about 10-degree weather, but again, I'm extrapolating as a Kal V'chomer. If even 30 degrees needed a coat, how much more so 10 degrees? So Moses employs the same argument. Now, it didn't come from the coat, but it's one of these arguments that you find in Torah used, and in Talmudic reasoning, it's also used. It's one of the 13 principles of Torah derivation by which we extrapolate Torah laws. And it goes like this, in this context. If even the mitzvah of the Paschal lamb, you couldn't eat if you deny God, and that's what it means if you're apostate, whatever it is, then how much more so if you violate all of the mitzvahs, how much more so do you not deserve the tablets of the testimony? And that's what he decided. Meaning Moses wasn't commanded by God to break the tablets. He extrapolated on his own. Now, did he get it right? So the Talmud says, yes, he did get it right. How do we know this? Because Asher Shibarta, Yasher Kochacha Sheshibarta, which is translating here as thank you for breaking them, but it really means more precisely like I endorse the fact that you broke them. God says, I like what you did. But we're going to challenge that with what David said a few moments ago and with what you might be thinking. Because the truth is, aside from God's endorsement, or as the Talmud reads it as an endorsement, you and I might ask the question, what was Moses thinking? Let me give you an example. Let me explain my question. Imagine you are a USPS mail delivery person, and you have very important mail. Now, how do you know it's very important? Because it says certified, I don't even know. It's got, official looking stamps. The more official looking, usually it's spam, whatever. It
says very important mail.
It says very important mail. Yeah. It's a very important mail, VIM. It's a VIM, right? Very important mail. And imagine for whatever reason, I don't know, maybe you can't access the mailbox, or you're supposed to deliver it and maybe get a signature. Oh, here we go. I'm modifying the case a little bit. And maybe there's no one home. So what do? You rip it up.
You leave a note on the door.
Oh, you leave a note on the door and you take it back? Oh, no, I'm Moses. I'm going to rip it up. Oh, you're not worthy of you can't receive it? Let me destroy it. Who would do that? It's Meshuggah. Meaning, in a normal situation, you would say, look, my job is to deliver this very important package, letter, document, whatever it is, to this person and make sure they receive it. Now, if they're not in a state where they can receive it, well, let me return it back to the sender, or maybe hold it until they're ready to receive it. That's what, in a normal situation, that's what you would do. You would either hold it or return it to the sender so that they'll hold it until the recipient's ready for it. Who told Moses to break it? Now, yes, we have the benefit of the Talmudic interpretation that says that God ultimately acquiesced to it and said you did a good job. But that's like hindsight is 2020. How did Moses know to do that? Why did he break the tablets? Now, you could say the simple answer is, well, he was angry. Like if you read the narrative, it would seem like he was just angry and he lost his cool and that's it. The problem is, I don't know. I mean, that's what we're chalking Moses up to. He was like, in a fit of anger, he broke God's word. I mean, come on. That doesn't seem to be like the Moses that we know and love. Now, again, you could say that, and the text would indicate, it says, Vayicher af Moshe, his anger, his wrath burned and he broke the tablets, but it still is not the angle that we're going to take. We're going to take a much, much deeper angle. So question number one, we're going to end up with 3 questions tonight. So question number 1 is, aside from the fact that we have this Talmudic analysis and interpretation that says that God ultimately approved the breaking of the tablets, aside from the ultimate approval on that, what was Moses thinking? If it wasn't able to be delivered, he should have returned it to sender. In this case, he should have brought it back to God. He should have seen what the people were doing. I don't think so. I'm heading back up the mountain with the tablets and returning it to God. Or maybe even, as some commentaries suggest, he could have dug a hole and buried them in the ground where he was and left them there for whatever. Because, I mean, think about it. What happens if a Torah is no longer fit for use, or any holy item is not fit for use? You don't destroy them. You don't burn them. You don't rip them up into pieces. You don't smash them on the ground. God forbid. What do? You bury them respectfully. So this is God engraved these tablets. Sorry for asking such a bold question. Who's Moses to shatter God's word? It's crazy.
I agree with that.
Now we take it for, you mentioned that before. So we take the story for granted because we've heard it so many times, but it's an important question to ask. And it's not my question. The question is asked by almost every biblical commentary, every classic Jewish biblical commentary around asks a form of this question. What was going on here? What was Moses thinking? Why they need to break it? Everyone's dealing with this question. Now, let's continue and let's look at Rashi. You know what, Ramon, please do one more. We're going to do Rashi text 2b. Rashi clearly is getting his commentary from what we just read in the Talmud, but it's important to kind of round it out over here.
The word that implies endorsement. God endorsed Moses' decision and praised him for breaking the tablets.
Now, the word that in English doesn't imply endorsement whatsoever. However, in Hebrew, asher could be read as ishur, which means endorsement, and that means that God was endorsing. So again, it's a wordplay in Hebrew. It doesn't really translate, but here's what you need to know. Bottom line is that God said, good job, Moses. But our question is, how did Moses have the chutzpah to go ahead and do that? What was he thinking? And what was that really all about? So, excuse me, let's now move on. We have one question. We're going to do two more. But to get the next two questions, we're going to have to read another text from the Talmud. This is from a different tractate. The first one was from Tractate Shabbat. This is from Menachot 99a. Excuse me. Again, text number 3. Toba, please read this one.
Rabbi Yosef taught, the tablets and the broken tablet shards were placed in the ark. Reish Lakish taught, sometimes undermining the Torah is its foundation.
Now, this is going to open up another series of questions. Let's break this down. I want you guys, let's keep focused on this text. There's two lines, one from Rabbi Yosef and one from Reish Lakish. One at a time, excuse me. Rabbi Yosef taught the ark, and this is the ark of the covenant. Like, what's his name? Like Raiders of Indiana Jones, right? The ark. So the ark, the OG ark, housed the tablets. But which set of tablets? Says Rabbi Yosef, and this is the conclusion of the Talmud, both sets of tablets were placed in the ark. The tablets and the broken tablet shards were placed in the ark. It wasn't just the second set of tablets that were whole that were in the ark. It was also the broken shards, the broken pieces that were placed there. Now, how does Rabbi Yosef know that? What, he made it up? Or was there a tradition? No, he derived it. It's basically derived from the verses. It talks about when, in Deuteronomy, when Moses is recapping the story, so he says, Ve'echtov ala luchos es hadvarim asher hayo ala luchos rishonim asher shibarta v'samtem ba'aron. And I inscribed the writing from the first tablets on the second tablets, and I inscribed them on the second tablets, the writings of the first tablets that were broken, and they were placed in the ark. And that implies that not only were the second tablets placed in the ark, but even the broken pieces. Meaning someone literally collected, maybe it was Moses himself, collected, imagine like a broom, collecting all the pieces, all the shards, and eventually dumped it or placed it, I don't know, whatever, somehow into that ark. So that's the first thing you need to know. And we're going to have a question on that. But then Reish Lakish comes along and says, you know what? I'm going to read it in Hebrew. Pa'amim, sometimes, Shebitula shel Torah. How do you translate bitula shel Torah? Bitul means not only undermining, canceling, or destruction almost. Sometimes the destruction of Torah is its foundation. What? You have to destroy it to have it? Saying that you had to destroy the first tablets to get the second. What does that even mean?
I think that makes sense.
So good. So let's ask a question on each of these statements. Number one, why were the broken tablet shards placed in the ark? Yes, it's a teaching the Rabbi Yosef derives from the biblical text, but why? Why would there be a need to memorialize, to commemorate for all time? Because, of course, the Ark of the Covenant was in the most sacred spot in the Holy Temple. It was in the Holy of Holies. It was in like the center space, the most holy and divine space. There was this box with the golden, angelic figurines on top, and inside the box, if you open up the top, tablets and broken tablets. So why are you putting the broken tablets?
One, they're still holy. It was God's writing.
Okay.
And two, a reminder of what you did.
Okay. But if it's the latter, I understand what you're saying. But if it's the second point, a reminder of the negative, then it seems like, come on. It's almost like, imagine a relationship goes through some tough times. You wouldn't put, would you put that on the wall in a frame? You would be like, okay, we grew from it, we learned from it, but, we're going to I don't know.
You have to remember it.
Huh?
You have to remember.
You do have to remember. Okay, so you guys are lying.
And there was something holy about it.
Which is the writing. Okay, so you guys are, okay. I don't necessarily disagree, but at least we're going to ask the question. We'll format the question, meaning, what was the purpose of the broken tablet shards? That's question number 2 in the totality of the class. And the third question, or the second question of the section, is Reish Lakish teaching Bitula Shel Torah Zeh Yisoda. What does that mean? That if you undermine or cancel or destroy or whatever it is, break Torah, that is its foundation. How could the undermining of something or the undoing of something be its foundation? It sounds like a paradox. So to understand all of this in a much, much deeper level, and we're going to blend, of course, as we often do, we're going to blend the simple but also a little of the mystical here as well. So to do this, we're going to look a little bit deeper into the difference between the first set of tablets and the second tablets. And this is going to be very important. And I'm going to read text number 4, which now comes from a midrash. Now, this is a midrash, again, from the same era as the Mishnah and the Talmud. It goes back, again, almost 2,000 years. And this midrash holds a lot of important context to understanding the story. So take a look at text 4. Moses worried. The Jews had an advocate to plead on their behalf. Who will advocate for me? You understand what he's saying? When the Jews messed up, I was there for them. But I messed up. I broke the tablets. Who's gonna be my lawyer? I was their lawyer. Who's gonna be my lawyer? He began to feel bad about breaking the tablets. So that's a little bit of an interesting midrashic insight that we haven't yet encountered before. That after he broke the tablets, he was feeling bad about that. So God said to him, "Do not worry over the first set of tablets, for they only contain 10 commandments. Whereas the second set of tablets that I am granting you will also contain halacha, the law, medrash, the midrash, and the agada, and the stories. This is the meaning of the passage, and if only God would reveal to you the mysteries of wisdom, which contain double wisdom." So essentially, and this is a very interesting verse from Job, the book of Eov, which is a book about suffering, but also insight into the human and divine condition of reality itself. So the point of that verse is to emphasize that there's 2 elements. There's wisdom, and then there's double wisdom. You have wisdom, but then you have the mysteries of wisdom, which really contain double wisdom. So there's revealed wisdom, and then there's the secrets of the wisdom, which is really a double wisdom, and that's what we're going to try to break down for the rest of today's class. What is this wisdom versus double wisdom? What is wisdom 1? What is wisdom 2? And why does that come with the second set of tablets? And again, God is almost consoling Moses. Don't feel bad about breaking the tablets, because that first set of tablets only contained the basic information. The second set of tablets, that's going to have much, much more content. What does that mean? By the way, just with that text, we've answered all the questions. I mean, we haven't explained it, but we've answered all the questions. Like, if we were wondering why it is that God said, "I like what you did," when Moses could have just returned the tablets, our first question was, why didn't Moses return the tablets back to God? So I can't answer in the moment why he didn't do that, but God certainly says in retrospect, this is a good thing, because had we only had once the original tablets, it wouldn't have come with the magic that the second tablets hold. Now, again, we haven't explained what that magic is.
That contradicts text 1 from Exodus, where it just says, I'll inscribe upon the tablets the words that were on the first tablets. It doesn't say
that it has more.
That's right. It doesn't say I'm
Good. So it comes along the medrash is good. Excellent question. So the question that David is asking is, one second. It says in the Torah, it says in the actual written Torah, that the second tablets contain the identical wording as the first set of tablets. And so where do we see an intimation? Where is it hinted that it has more? So obviously the medrash is based on other verses and other interpretation, which we haven't quoted the entire piece here. But somehow the medrash is learning that indeed the second set of tablets comes along with more. Now we're going to explain what that means.
It's got to be a big set of tablets.
It's got no. It doesn't mean literally written on the tablets. So the writing was only the original writing, but somehow through that was carried much deeper. And again, we're going to explain this, but we're just we're wireframing where we're going with this, which again answers the first question, which is why, Moses could have returned it back to sender, back to God. But then again, with that original set of tablets, it would have only had single wisdom, not double wisdom. And then the next question, which is our next question, was on the idea of why put the broken tablet shards into the ark. And the answer is because, well, as we'll see, you need brokenness in order to get to that second level. And then why is the breaking of Torah its foundation? Again, because that's how you get to the deeper level. But we need to establish what these deeper levels are. And so to do that, we're going to read text 5. I'm going to read text 5 also. We're going to go back around, but I want to read text 5 because I want to throw some interpretation in here as well. Text 5 is highly, highly important in understanding the very nature of Torah and divine wisdom. It's really important to understand that when we study Torah, it's not just another book of academic information. It's not just a book of law, ethics, spirituality, guidance, whatever. It's actually a book of divine wisdom and divine will that is compressed in something that you and I can understand, which is the ultimate magic trick. It's like the ultimate magic trick of God is taking himself and his wisdom, which is unfathomable, and somehow compressing it in a way that you and I can make any sense of it. It's not like God's wisdom starts off as, if my cow gores your cow, then I have to pay you X amount of money for the damage that it caused. That's not divine wisdom. Divine wisdom is much deeper than that, but it's manifesting itself in cases of the cow goring another cow, or two people walking in holding a garment and each claiming, sole ownership over it, etc. So for this, again, let's read text number 5. I'm going to read this. This is from the 4th chapter of Tanya. So the Alter Rebbe, the founder of Chabad, writes the following: God concealed his desire and wisdom. Now that's an important phrase. Desire and wisdom, I would translate that differently. His will and wisdom. What he wants and how he thinks. So God concealed that in the 613 commandments of the Torah and in their laws. And by the way, that idea of concealment means that it's not the full measure of what he wants and how he thinks. It's a diluted expression of that. In the sequence of letters in the biblical canon and in the teachings of our sage of blessed memory as documented in the Agada and Midrash. And he did this, continues the Tanya, he compressed his deepest will and wisdom into these discernible teachings so that every soul, spirit, and vivifying force dressed in a human body would be able to grasp God's transcendental will and wisdom with their human minds. You see that? God took something that is unrelatable and made it down, brought it down to our level and said, here, can you understand this? Good. Now you know what I want. Not on the deepest level, because again, we can't understand that on that level, but we can understand at least on a minute level. It is for this reason that the Torah is compared to water. Just as water flows from a high point to a low point, so did the Torah descend from its place of honor, which is the realm of divine will and wisdom, where it is seen to be one with God, a plane on which no mind, let alone a human mind, can grasp it. Then, like the water, it traveled from there, descending through the mystery of spiritual levels, from one level to the next, following the devolution of countless worlds until it could be dressed in material concepts and physical phenomena of this world. And I want to give you an example. The example that I'm going to give you is an example that I've helped understand this idea over here. And that is a word that we use often. The word is sweet. Now, let's talk about some things that are sweet. An apple is sweet. Somebody remembering your birthday and texting you happy birthday is also sweet. But there's a difference in the sweet of an apple and the sweet of a nice thought and acknowledgement. What's the difference? One you can taste, and one is more of a feeling. It's a little bit more abstract. One is very concrete, one is abstract. Now, are they both sweet? Yeah, but not exactly the same sweet. So imagine that's an example of a thing that can exist on multiple planes. You can have something that's sweet, meaning kind or loving, right? So that's one use of the word sweet. And then you have a much more reduced or more tangible usage of that idea. And in a similar yet completely exponentially, greater level is the will and wisdom of God, the way it is by Hashem, by God, versus the will and wisdom of God, the way it's manifest in Torah, the way you and I read it. Now, that's not to say, to be very clear, that's not to say that what we're learning is not the real McCoy. That's not the intention. The intention is simply to say that what we're learning when we study Torah is the end product of this, he's used the word devolution, or at least in the translation, of this hishtalshalut, this cascading effect of bringing down, like water cascading down a mountain, bringing down, lowering God's pure will and wisdom to the point that it shows up in very tangible terms, take a piece of matzah and eat it on Passover. Whereas, again, not that that's not what God wants, but it represents something that's much deeper than what we can even understand. What we're getting is like the very tangible element of it. It's almost like someone who says, like, well, what does it mean to love? What does it mean to like someone asking like philosophical questions, and the answer is, here, take this flower and hand it to that person. So we're getting like the end of the instruction of like, okay, do this. But there's much more depth and wisdom behind it. And where we're going with this is the concept that in Torah, there's really always two dimensions of Torah. The revealed part of Torah and the hidden part of Torah, meaning the revealed will and wisdom and then the hidden will and wisdom. And the truth is, it's not because we're not smart enough that it's hidden will and wisdom. It's because it's beyond human comprehension, meaning it's not a user deficiency. It's a divine proficiency, meaning God is just existing in his will and wisdom on a level completely beyond ours. Nothing we can do can ever reach there. It's not like we should feel bad about it. It's just a different plane of reality. Make sense?
Difference between physical and spiritual, or physical and emotional? Yeah,
sort of. So I'm using physical and emotional as an example of the physical spiritual. And then we can even go deeper and say, creation versus creator, and or Torah as devolved or evolved down here versus Torah the way it originates above. Now, let's read a statement. Okay, again, all of this is a little bit subtle, but we're going to go through this over the next 15 minutes, and hopefully it's going to become more and more understandable as we use go through different texts, etc. So, David, if you don't mind, please read text number 6. Give me 1 second. This is from Maimonides, Hilchot Tshuva, Laws of Repentance, but point of this is to kind of express the idea that God is really beyond our playing field altogether.
Just as no human can understand the Creator in his truest sense, as it is written, for no person can see me and live, so can no person understand the Creator's wisdom. This is what the prophet alluded to when he said, for my thoughts are not your thoughts, and my paths are not your paths.
Thank you. This is so important. And it literally is building what we had just read before in text 5. But this is very important because it's coming from more original sources. We read from Tanya, but obviously it's coming from original sources. And we see here that it's coming ultimately from a verse from Isaiah, from the written Torah, where it says, Ki lo machshavotai machshavotechem, my thoughts are not your thoughts, v'lo darkechem derachai, and your ways are not my ways. Meaning we're not on the same playing field. And what I think Maimonides, what I think is so beautiful about how he articulates it, and of course, who wrote like Maimonides? He's a singular, author amongst many, where he's writing And look at those opening lines again. Just as no human can understand the Creator, so can no human understand the Creator's wisdom. Because think about it this way. Imagine someone said, so explain God. What's God like? You're like, can't understand that. What's God like? I don't know. How are we supposed to know that? What's his personality? We can't understand God. But you know how he thinks? Yeah, I study Torah. You know what he wants? Yeah, I study Torah. My mind is like, that's not how it works. Just like you can't understand God, you can't understand how he thinks or what he wants. So what's Torah? Torah is, that's what we read in text 5. Torah is basically where God says, look, I'm going to give you water. Now, it's not the same the way it's down here, the way it's up there, but it is of the same like molecular DNA. It's ultimately this, it's connected, but it's going to be a far reduced dimension. To give you an example of this, again, this is an imperfect human example. It says that King Solomon was the wisest of all men. And what was his chachma? What was his wisdom? Where was that expressed? In the fact, listen to this. It says, I think it's the Talmud or Medrash, he could give 3,000 parables. Mashallah, he could give 3,000 parables about a single topic. Now, you and I are thinking, like, 3,000. First of all, it's a lot of parables. It's like, let me give you a parable about a fox. Maybe about a horse. Maybe about a tree. It's like 3,000 of these. Are you kidding me? So it's explained in Kabbalah that no. It wasn't 3,000 parallel parables. It was 3,000 parables going lower and lower and lower and lower. Imagine if you could teach. Imagine if Albert Einstein could teach the highest, his deepest theories and ideas of physics to successively younger and younger students, where it wasn't just his brilliant colleagues who could understand what he was saying, or even grad students, or even college students, but literally a 3-year-old, maybe not a 3-year-old, maybe a 4-year-old, a 5-year-old, he could somehow bring it down to that level. That's King Solomon. King Solomon was able to take a concept and lower it 3,000 different degrees. You know what? If you get 3,000 levels down, if you wrap your head around that, it's probably not going to sound the same as it was originally. There, it's abstract, theoretical, whatever that looks like, but it's the same concept. Ultimately, there's a line that goes through. The same thing is with Torah. But Torah is a little bit different. See, all of this, any example that we can use, King Solomon, from the top to the bottom of 3,000 parables, it's all within human understanding and the same guy. What we're talking about here, though, is God's wisdom and now the human mind wrapped around an idea of Torah. It's a little bit different. And as you can fathom the distance between 3001 and the original idea, and how vast that is, let alone imagine how vast the difference between the Torah that we can wrap our heads around and the pure Torah or pure wisdom of God, the way it is by God. There's no way that we can know what that is, but we can kind of like push it. We can know it in its negative, what it's not. It's not anything that we can fathom. It's beyond what we can fathom. Does this make sense? Sort of? Yeah? Okay. Good. Now, let's read the Malbim. The Malbim expresses this also in kind of philosophical terms, not necessarily about God himself, but in general about wisdom itself, about two different ways of understanding wisdom. And this is going to be very important in our conversation. Ramon, I think we're up to you. Please read text number 7, the abstract brain.
We only grasp the temporal, external aspect of all things, the elements that relate to our senses. This understanding does not enable us to know these things in their purity, since the relationship between their outer elements and our senses. This is because our senses can only detect things that depend on the time-space continuum. However, the essence of a thing is not conditioned on time or space. Therefore, we can't gain a clear understanding of a thing on its purest level. We can only know it through its effect on our senses. One who can grasp the essence of a thing without relying on data gained through the senses, but rather on the abstract mind, stripped of corporeality, will understand the hidden wisdom and know the true nature of a thing. For everything that exists on 2 levels. Its essential truth is different from its external element that can be seen.
All right, thank you. So he's talking here about anything or any wisdom that exists. He's not specifically talking about pure divine wisdom versus human wisdom. But the point is, even on every level of wisdom, he says, that last line, I think, or that last paragraph, I think, summarizes it. Everything exists on two levels. There's an essential truth, and then there's the external element, and you can sense the external, but you can't always sense or understand, let alone grasp, the essential truth that is beyond the ability for us to grasp intuitively or in using our external tools. Because, again, think about it. We use external tools to grasp things, and so my hand can grasp the outside of something. I can't very easily grasp the inside. Or my eyes can see the outside. I can't necessarily see the inside. Now, you can perceive that, but it requires a different tool set. It's not the external things that grasp the external. It's the internal things that can grasp the internal. So what does it mean vis-a-vis God? And now we're gonna endeavor to kind of bring things together. But to do this, we have to introduce one more concept, one final concept. And that is that in life, you want a cup that does not have a hole. Meaning, you want a whole cup, not a holy cup, right? You want a whole cup, W-H-O-L-E, and not an H-O-L-E cup, a cup with a hole. So I have here tea. This is the lemon ginger tea, which is perfect for a night like tonight, given the frigid weather in Atlanta. I'm kidding. It's beautiful here. So this cup, I used the double cup because it was hot when I poured it. It's holding the tea. I pour it into this next cup. It's great. This is great. Now, if there was a hole in this, we would have a problem. However, there's a very interesting concept when it comes to God. When it comes to the divine, it works a little bit differently. The greatest vessel to receive God, to contain God, is a broken vessel. The more whole one's vessel is, the less adept it is in actually being a vessel and a vehicle for God. That's the paradox. When it comes to physical things, you need a vessel that's strong and intact. When it comes to the divine, to God, the best vessel is a vessel that's got a few cracks in it. To quote the famous Leonard Cohen in his song called Anthem, in everything there's a crack. That's what lets the light in, or that's the way the light gets in. That's how the light gets in. It's the crack that allows the light in. If you're all self-contained, and we're talking about ego here, right? The broken vessel, a vessel which is the ego, which is the body, which is the human being, who's open and cracked open a little bit surrendered to something greater than self, broken open, the hubris is taken out. That person is a vessel. To quote the Kutzker Rebbe, he was I lived in the 1800s.
Leonard Cohen,
Kutzker Rebbe. But the Kutzker Rebbe was, listen, it's all part of Jewish wisdom. But the Kutzker Rebbe was very sharp. And he had lines. He said, like, nothing is as straight as a crooked ladder. He says, nothing is as dark as white burial shrouds. Nothing is as crooked as the straight smile of a con man. He was like dabbling in paradoxes. You see this? And then he said, and nothing is as whole as a broken heart. How powerful is that? There's nothing as whole as a broken heart. Because what constitutes a vessel for God? A broken heart. A broken heart doesn't mean that, oh my gosh, we were in 5th grade and she dumped me. That's not what it means by a broken heart. A broken heart means on a spiritual level. A heart, the ego, it's open. Ego's open, sorry. It means the heart is vulnerable. The person is vulnerable, a little bit exposed, a little bit raw, not protective. We all put walls around ourselves by nature. Maybe some more, maybe some less, but by nature we put protective walls around ourselves. We don't want to get hurt. Especially someone who has been hurt. For sure you put up walls. That's the scar tissue, right? You definitely want to build that up so that nothing can penetrate, so that nothing can take that down again. You fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. I'm not going to let that happen again. So he put up walls. Unfortunately, in this process, in this journey called life, we end up putting up walls that also block out God and say, God, I got this. God is found in the broken heart. Famous high holiday story with the Baal Shem Tov, where he taught, sometimes there's Ellen, she comes to classes. She comes Sunday morning sometimes to the Monday class as well. Ellen, why am I forgetting her last name? She's a descendant of, wow, I'm forgetting all the names. So someone is a descendant of someone. She's a descendant of someone who was a disciple. Oh, Zev Wolf Kitzis. Zev Wolf Kitzis, who was a disciple of the Baal Shem Tov. And the Baal Shem Tov was once, appointed him to blow the shofar on Rosh Hashanah. And he prepared. That was his job. And can you imagine in the Baal Shem Tov, who was just a brilliant tzaddik and a miracle worker, and you have the chance, you're the guy to sound the shofar in Rosh Hashanah to hearken in a new year and to bring down all the blessings, and you're the guy to do that. That's an incredible honor and responsibility. And so he prepared and he studied all of the mystical texts he could find about shofar, and he wrote down notes about what it means so that he could glance at them and remind himself about the significance and the meaning, so he could have the right kavanah, the right meditation and intention as he's doing the mitzvah. And he gets up there, he's ready to roll, it's time to blow the shofar, and he reaches into his pocket and there's no notes. I don't know, maybe he found the shopping list, milk, butter, eggs. Wrong pocket. Wrong notes. You ever have that? You ever have that sense where you're sure you put something in your pocket and you can't find it? It happens. Can't find it. Starts panicking. You know what happens when you panic? You can't remember a thing. You can't remember not one idea about the shofar. So he starts really panicking, and then he feels like a failure. He feels like a bum, a failure. The Baal Shem Tov entrusted him with this job, and now he is totally like messing it up. He feels terrible, and he starts crying. He starts sobbing. And eventually he collects himself, and the Baal Shem Tov looks at him and smiles and says, no. It's time to roll. And so without any intention in his mind, no mystical intentions and no deeper thoughts in his mind, he blows the shofar. And afterwards, Baal Shem Tov said to him after the prayer service was over, he said, Reb Zev, what a marvelous shofar blowing. Best I've ever heard. He says, what? Impossible. Baal Shem Tov said to him, look, here's what you need to know. There are many chambers in heaven, and each one has a different key. But there's a master key that opens them all. And the master key is a broken heart. When he felt vulnerable, he felt exposed, he felt raw, his ego kind of got out of the way, he felt, open and exposed. That's the master key. That's the key that unlocks all of the chambers to all of the doors, to all of the blessings. What is the container for God? The essence, not the wisdom, not the reduced wisdom, but the essence. It's a broken heart. Let's take a look at text 8b. Let's take a look. Let's take a quick look at text. Hold on. Text 8a, actually. Okay, we're up to you, Tova. Text 8a.
Rabbi Alexandri said, if an ordinary person must make use of a broken vessel, it is embarrassing. However, God's vessels are always broken, as it is written. God is close to those whose hearts are broken. Okay,
and I realize I didn't share this text, but I'll share it right now. So basically, we have this idea that God is close to those whose hearts are broken. That is very, very powerful. It's from the book of Psalms. King David writes, Karev Hashem lenishberei leiv. God is close to those with a broken heart. That's exactly the point that we're saying. Again, this is from Midrash Rabbah. This is not even Kabbalah. This is straight up Midrash. Take a look at the Alter Rebbe, 8b. I'll read this. And he uses an example of a seed in the ground. By way of analogy, consider a seedling that doesn't sprout until it rots in cavities appear in its shell. It works like this. The soil contains an energy that drives growth. The grain seedling contains a specific energy that can grow wheat that is converted into flour. The walls of the seed form a curtain that separates the two growth energies. Then the seedling rots, and the energy of growth in the seedling joins with the energy in the soil that drives growth. The same is true of a person. A wall of resistance surrounds the heart, preventing it from surrendering. This wall is the ego, which drives us to worship ourselves and our understanding. This is a curtain that prevents us from seeing the truth. These are such powerful words and such, modern psychological ideas and truths about human, behavior and responses to trauma. I mean, it's unbelievable to think this is written in the 1700s is actually mind-boggling. Very ahead of its time. What I want to share is the following. There's two dimensions of Torah. There's the Torah that we understand, and then there's the essence of God that is also found in Torah. But that we can't conceptualize with our mind's understanding. That requires a different tool. Our mind can grasp the external part, just like my hand can grasp the external of a thing, not the internal, because it literally grasps the external. So to our minds grasp the external lowest dimension of Torah, but not the deepest part, not the God part, not the God essence part. So what grasps that? Brokenness, surrender, vulnerability. You see, in Torah study, there's two opposites. Torah study requires my understanding. If I'm studying Torah, I need to understand it. By definition, that is an ego-driven experience. My understanding, the way I understand it, the way I process it, me, my mind understanding it. That's the lower level of Torah. There's a higher level of Torah where I let go. It's not about my understanding. It's about God's truth, God's essence. And that's where the vulnerability or the surrender comes in. And so this is the vacillation. These are the two dimensions of Torah study. One is the intellectual process of understanding, and then there's also the humility and the vulnerability of the surrender. That's why before we study Torah in the morning, it's one of the morning blessings. Before we as we get called to the Torah, we recite the blessing. We say, "Blessed are you, God," etc. We say, "No Sein HaTorah," the one we thank God when we refer to God as the giver of the Torah, not the one who gave us Torah, but in the present tense, the one who's giving us right now the Torah, recognizing that it's not our Torah, right? But it's God's Torah. That requires a little bit of humility. And so these are the two dimensions. And so what happens with the first tablets? The first tablets come, God gives us, the Ten Commandments, reveals the revelation, and we might have thought, wow, we had it all. Look at us. We're worthy of divine revelation, patting ourselves on the back. And then we messed up, the sin of the golden calf. And Moses wanted to make sure that we felt broken about it. And so what does he do? He shatters the tablets. And by shattering the tablets, that shattered the hearts of the people, making them vulnerable. And now God says, thank you for shattering the tablets and instilling within the people a sense of vulnerability and failure and humility and lack of ego. Thank you for doing that, because now the second set of tablets, now when they study Torah, it can be from a place of openness. Not from a place of closeness, from a place of, look at my understanding and I get Torah, but a place of real surrender. The surrender that comes through recognizing that you're imperfect and your way of understanding is always going to be imperfect. And you're only a human being and you're frail. And 40 days after revelation, when you're like, yes, God is the only one, you're like, except for this golden calf that looks really good right now, right? And that, knowing that and seeing the tablet shatter, that breaks open the person. And that's why the second set of tablets comes with it, not just the written Torah, but also halacha and medrash and agada. And we know that agada contains the secrets of God's truth, of God's essence. Let me read everything that I just said. Let's read in the text, and then we'll close out the class. Take a look at the last few texts. I will read these to kind of bring everything together. Hopefully it's all making sense. The Sinai experience, this is going to be text number 9. Thank you. God thanked Moses for breaking the tablets because he broke them before the eyes of the people. This gave them, the people, a sense of humble brokenness, which turned them into proper vessels for the higher level of wisdom delivered in the second set of tablets and the endless additions found in the oral Torah. As we said before, there's tablets 1 and tablets 2, and tablets 1 are limited. Tablets 2 are infinite because there's no limit. There's only one written Torah, 5 books of Moses, a very finite number of words. And what's the parameter on the oral Torah? Still going, still expanding. Still expanding. That represents the infinity of God. The oral Torah, paradoxically, reflects the infinity of God, and that is specifically the second tablets, and that's born of the breaking of the tablets, which breaks the hearts and the ego of the people. Text 10a. Take a look at the verse from Job that expresses how broad and infinite Torah really is. Its measure is longer than the planet and broader than the sea. And now we have a beautiful teaching from Chassidus and Kabbalah. The innermost mystical aspect of the Torah is Agada. That is the oral Torah. That is the stories, the Midrash and the Talmudic stories, the Agada. For the secrets of the Torah, you see that line? The secrets of the Torah are concealed in it. You can study the revealed parts of Torah. You can study, about cows goring other cows. But when you study the Agada, the stories, you get the secrets of the Torah, and that is the process. That is something that is born of the experience of the shattering of the tablets. Why? Because it represents the breaking of the heart. I must point out that we are starting a course next week exactly on this Agada, on the stories of the Talmud. It's called Curious Tales of the Talmud, finding personal meaning in the legends of our sages. Yes, this is an ad. This was not a 60-minute ad. But I don't mind ending up with an ad also, right? Because this is an important course. It's starting next week, starting next Wednesday, a week from today. And it literally goes through story after story, revealing the deeper truth. But getting back to tonight's class, that's all next week. But getting back to tonight's class, what we see today is something so important. And I'm going to circle back to a practical takeaway that I mentioned a few moments ago. When you're studying Torah, there's two experiences. One is my understanding. I get it, I understand it, I'm questioning it, I'm analyzing it, but there needs to be simultaneously another dimension. Wow, this is God's Torah. Wow, this is greater than me. Wow, no matter how much I understand, it's nothing compared to the deepest truth of God's wisdom. And that humility of knowing that what we can understand is nothing, and kind of like feeling broken on some level about that paradoxically creates the vessel, the broken vessel, as it were, to contain the essence of God, the true truth of the Torah. And so this is the beautiful interplay, the beautiful dance that we have. We study Torah, and on the one hand, we understand it. We strive to understand it. On the other hand, we strive to recognize that it's going to be beyond our understanding. So one second, if it's beyond our understanding, so why even bother? Because you have to understand it also. You have to strive at least to understand it. Understand what you can, and then recognize that there's stuff that you can't understand, and even the stuff that you understand, recognize that that's not the full truth. And that way, we can contain both. We can grasp the outside, and then also be a vessel, a broken vessel, as it were, to have the inside. This answers, and so in order to transition from tablets 1 to tablets 2, there had to be a breaking in between. Just like to go from seed to growth, the seed has to break open in the ground. Just like it has to break, Moses broke the tablets in front of the eyes of the people to break the people open, to become vulnerable and humbled, and that allows the deeper experience of Torah. And so that answers all the questions we had. Question number 1 is, why did he break it? Well, ultimately he broke it, whether he realized it then or not. He broke it so that it would break them open. Why were the broken shards in the ark? Because that's the key to grasping God. You got to have that brokenness. And what did Reish Lakish mean when he said? Remember what he said? Bitula shel Torah.
It was for the good or something.
He said, Pa'amim, sometimes, shabitula shel Torah. The breaking of Torah is yisod, as the foundation. Well, now we know what that means. The foundation means literally foundation. Like the foundation for recognizing the truth of Torah is breaking yourself open. Not breaking Torah, but breaking yourself open to the truth of Torah. That's the foundation of Torah study. That's why we begin with reverence. Torah study with reverence, recognizing that we're not just, bantering around, debating or analyzing, human information. It's the divine word that's beyond us, even as we seek to understand it with our minds. And this is the beautiful dance of Torah. And so let us recognize the privilege that we have of studying and engaging with divine wisdom and connecting with God's essence through this process. L'chaim. Cheers. Make sense?
Yishkoach.
Thank you. Oh, and I didn't even break anything to get your shikach.
Our minds.
Hopefully not. Hopefully everyone's minds are still intact.
A lot to think about.
Yeah. It's if I had to put the class in a nutshell after all this, I would say, the one-liner is it's a perspective on the reverence that we should have for Torah. It's not just a subject. It's not like Talmud 101 or Jewish law 101. It's the divine essence is in here, and recognizing that allows us to interface with that, which is very powerful. All right, let's break some tablets. I'm kidding. When they say that's when Steve Jobs passed away. Steve Jobs, no. So he goes up to heaven. He sees God. And he says, would you like some new tablets?
Oh, boy.
Something like that. I don't know. There was something like that.
I always thought it was take two and call me in the morning.
That's the other one. Moses had a headache. God says, take two, call me in the morning. Yep. Lessons from the broken tablets. Questions, comments?
I was listening to the different tapes, and I'm sorry, I should write down the names of who it came from. But with the second tablet, that really, we were able to have more connection with us, because Moses had to carve it out, the physical part.
Yeah.
And then also some say that the tablets broke themselves, that he didn't really let go.
Yeah.
So as some say.
There is a tradition that the tablets are too heavy for a human being to hold. Even a guy who worked out as much as Moses did. And so really the tablets carried themselves miraculously, as long as the people were worthy. The moment he saw that people weren't worthy, the tablets reverted to their weight. They lost the magical, lightness, and they kind of slipped out of his hands. There is a tradition. We took a bit of a different one, but yeah, I think that first point that you said aligns with what we said tonight. That it's the second tablets that allow us to touch not just the wisdom, but to touch the divine essence. That's the big idea.
I was going to say,
Isn't there,
I heard of tablets of crystal too, right there. I guess
the second tablets were made of sapphire.
Yeah.
The first tablets, I'm not sure.
Oh, really?
Some sort of stone.
It is say stone.
You know what's interesting about the second tablets? This is fascinating. So it says, I forget which Rashi it is, but Rashi in his commentary, who obviously he didn't make it up, he took it from like ancient teachings, where God tells Moses to carve out the stones, and the leftover pieces, he says, you can keep. It's like a magical sapphire, I don't know. What would you call it? Deposit? I don't know, whatever it is. Like appeared in his tent, and then he carved out the tablets, and God says, you can take the rest. And I always love this interpretation. I don't remember where I saw it originally. I think I saw it somewhere. I don't think I made it up. When you carve out time and space for Torah, you never lose out.
yeah.
He carves out the tablets, but he also he can use the shards. I'm saying financially, he's okay with it. And I think the message for us is the willingness and the ability and the excitement to carve out time and space in our day, in our lives for Torah, can only enhance, won't take away from the stuff that we need. Please, God. And of course, let's end with a blessing. Blessing for the promised land, the land of Israel. Blessing for the United States. A blessing for all of those that are, endeavoring to keep the world safe. And indeed, I think the blessing that we all wish is for peace, an end to conflict, a definitive end to all threats and all negativity. And may indeed the time come where the prophets speak about a time when there will only peace. V'lo yisa goy el goy cherev. One nation will not lift a sword against another nation, because there will only be peace from now into eternity. And let us say Amen. Say l'chaim on a lemon ginger tea, because that's what I got. So cheers. We'll toast to that.
Water.
Yes. L'chaim or l'mayim. Okay. All right. I think that's it. We'll close it out. See you guys. Don't forget this course. You want to learn the secrets, the deepest secrets, and the stories, and the most curious stories. I know some of you have already signed up for it. If you haven't yet, you definitely want to come to this Curious Tales of the Talmud starting next week, a week from today. Daytime and evening classes are available.
Are you Zooming?
Yeah, absolutely. Online and in person. Yes.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Pleasure. All right, we'll see you guys. Lila Tov, everyone.
Bye.